Hi, good morning, fellas. How are you doing today?
Yeah,
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
Oh,
Very good, very good. Thank you. Marc and myself are hosting our podcast called the Peer-to-Peer Podcast. We just like to talk about ideas about decentralization, kind of circling around the Ergo blockchain. And Marc and I have lots of interests around AI, and so I was really excited to learn about your product, Nico. So maybe let's just kind of kick off, introduce yourself to us, and yeah, we just start there.
Yeah, so my name is Nico. I'm one of the co-founders behind the Shinkai protocol. Shinkai allows you to create AI agents or even crypto AI agents in 5 minutes or less, just doing vibe coding, which is like one of these new things that has been going on in the last like few months. It's like kind of new. And I guess we're going to be talking more about that.
Yeah, that's super cool. Um, so Marc and I, Marc is a little bit more technical than myself in the AI world. I work in education, and so kind of work to build AI tools, kind of where the AI meets the school. That's kind of what I do. Marc is maybe a little more
Interesting.
on the back end. So how did you get into AI?
This was a long time ago, maybe like 6 or 7 years. I was uh, thinking like, what is going to be the next wave? Is it going to be AI or crypto? And I was studying both, and I ended up going with crypto. And then eventually, like as everyone now knows, with ChatGPT, like AI came with Rage, and it's like there was an opportunity to actually work on both. So it's like find it super interesting. And I saw a specific opportunity with what we are doing with Shinkai and with my teammates. Let's try this out.
okay, cool.
Yeah.
Who else do you work with? I think is Robert one of your founders? Because I think that's how we got linked through Shinkai to kind of look into that. Because he used to be
Yes.
a developer on Ergo.
Yep. And he also was part of the Ergo Foundation. He did a bunch of things for Ergo. Actually, I also got to know about Ergo through Rob. He would talk me about Ergo like almost every talk because we also were involved with Cardano.
Okay.
And in that, back in time, Cardano didn't have smart contracts. So a lot of the inspiration of like proposals, stuff like that, actually came from Ergo. And Ergo like took so many decisions that were like correct. And they're like, oh my God, this is so simple. And then we would like look at other proposals like, hey, how's that we're doing this second, but Ergo that already did it is like much cleaner. So Ergo helped a lot to like sort of like uh, improve some proposals because not only the problems were like well thought, but also you guys like in practice already have like developers, smart contracts, examples, and things working on a day-to-day basis, which is like super important when sometimes you're like to wrap up with just theory.
Yeah, that's one of the things that drew me in as well. Is it just like, so I'm not super technical, but they would explain it in a way that is simple. It's not overly complex. It's not basic, but like primary.
Yeah.
Just simple, direct. So what other blockchains have you worked with? Like, how did you get into blockchain?
Uh, so a couple of like really close friends were like very like OGs in crypto. I think one he was involved with one of the first exchanges like in crypto. I think that was 2011. I'm originally from Chile. That's why I have this accent. And there was this exchange called Trade Hill that actually was a group of Americans working from Chile in Valparaiso. And that was 2011. And I used to play frisbee with them. And that's how I started getting to know about Bitcoin. But back then I was like, yeah, I'm not so sure about that. I prefer to use my money to buy like I don't know, an extra beer or something like that. I don't know about investment. Obviously, I should have done some investments back then, but that continued like staying back in my mind and with the price going up and down. And eventually, like around 2015 or 16, I'm like, okay, one of my very technical friends started being like 100% into like Bitcoin, and I was able to ask him a lot of like tough questions, like, but I can steal your money like this. Nope, you can't steal my money like this. What about this? No. So eventually, like, it made sense to me because there was someone that was like answering all of these questions, and then the system made sense. Like, oh my god, this is like such good technology. You cannot steal money. It's like I cannot come up with any idea that actually could like actually work out. So okay, you guys were right. There is something in here.
Yeah, that's cool, man. Everyone has like an interesting story about how they were skeptical at first, and then you learn enough, and you're like, oh, I should have done this
Yeah,
5 years ago.
Right.
and once you get convinced, there is no turning back. It's like you don't get unconvinced.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, right on, man. Well, that's really cool. Thanks for sharing just kind of your background and stuff like that. Did you study like computer science or anything to kind of enable you to build these tools, or did you just kind of learn on your own?
So I studied electronics. I'm an electronic engineer, and also I was studying like business, like industrial engineering. But when I was doing my thesis, I decided that I didn't want to follow that path. So I changed to computer science, and it was kind of like funny because I had to convince one of the computer science department uh, professors to let me work with him. And he's like, "How many classes you took of computer science?" None. So I had a lot of to do in terms of catch up, but I was like very committed, and it worked out. And after that, I was working with like a bunch of like startups. I created my own startups in Chile. We were developing software. We were like the largest native mobile development company in Chile for a while. That was like maybe 2014. And we created like around like 20 to 30 native apps, and some of them they got featured in the App Store in like different markets. One of them for like a client in the US got featured in Vogue magazine as one of like the best apps of that year. So it paid off. I started working out. Then I moved to the US, and I was working in a few more like more on the edge startups, and that was like really cool because I got to like actually experience like, oh yeah, it's not just coding, relaxing from like 9 to 5, like in the US when you're working in startups, like a little bit more on the edge. So like more pressure, so working like weekends, extra hours, but that helped a lot because I improved a lot from other people that have been like in like pretty legit companies. And after that is when I did the move to crypto, and I joined this company called Emurgo, which is one of like the 3 entities behind Cardano. And I was their first developer there, and I
Wow.
became their CTO. So like I was in charge of like a bunch of like small projects, and maybe like the top 3 projects that I did for Emurgo was Sebanai, who was another developer that I hired afterward. And now he's my co-founder, and this is Marc. And in Shinkai, we created Yoroi wallet, which was like almost like the official light wallet for Cardano. We got to have over 500,000 users. We were securing around $3.5 billion in assets, non-custodial, and we were generating like a few $1 million in annual recurrent revenue. I also was in charge of an acceleration program in New York where we were investing in startups around like 200K. And this was in association with another investment firm called SOSV, which is one of like the most active early stage investors in the US at that time. And we invested in multiple crypto companies. And also I got super excited about Ergo. So I was like pitching, hey, let's do this partnership with Ergo in Emurgo and also IHK. And from that also we were able to develop some stuff like a stablecoin project, which helped like a lot of engineers that were like more focused in Cardano to understand how like UTXOs with the smart contract could work. So that was like something that worked out like pretty well. And maybe those are like the three projects that I would like mention that I was involved in a more ago. And after that, we jumped to create This is Spark, and now we are building Shinkai as part of like This is Spark.
That's super cool, man. Like what a adventure that you had. That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. What
would you say?
Go ahead, Marc.
Yeah. So what would you say? So, you kind of had some, I wouldn't say like pitfalls, but sort of like obstructions to kind of get into the coding realm. And I think a lot of people maybe see nowadays, at least on Ergo, they want to get involved with coding, but they're not really sure where to start. And with AI, it's like more accessible than ever. What is like maybe some things that they could do to kind of get started with coding and developing, and what are some maybe common steps that like worked well for you in that sort of idea?
Yeah, I guess it's going to depend if you consider yourself like technical and you took like math classes. I took a lot of bad classes, and I think that helped me like in more like structuring thinking. So, but at the same time, you could go in that direction. But also AI is getting so good right now. I think it was like Mark Zuckerberg last week in another podcast that he was mentioning that maybe for him it's going to be like a year and a half, and AI is going to be as good as like a senior developer. But the crazy stuff is that right now it's like as good as maybe a non-senior developer. Obviously, there's like multiple cases that doesn't perform as well, but it's moving so fast and already can be helpful. For example, one use case that I created with Shinkai without having to code a single line of code all from scratch, I was able to create an arbitrage agent, an AI agent that does arbitrage in Jupyter between stablecoins. And it created everything, like the code to get a quote for the transaction, the code to see the tokens in your wallet, the code to do the actual transaction, and also code for like finding the stable coins. And when I created it, was doing almost 1% per day in arbitrage. I'm like, oh my God, this actually works and it's making money. It's not losing money, it's making money. So that was like one of like the surprising moments that I was actually even surprised about Shinkai. Oh my God, it actually works. And so if you can, right now, today, you can make AI agents that actually, they don't have all the rules created. And that's what it makes an AI agent like an AI agent and not a bot, because it can see like some path that maybe you didn't code or you didn't explain, but this is actually going to generate some profit. So an example of that is that basically I told the AI, hey, check all the stable coins and check if when we swap to another stablecoin, we get more units of stablecoin. Example, if you have 100 USDC, if you switch to 100.05 Tether, that's a good arbitrage opportunity. And what it thought and discovered, and I didn't tell the AI to do this, is so that, if I change USDC to this other one, I'm going to lose money. But when I change back, actually I'm going to end up with more money. So I need to do 2 hoops. And I'm like, oh my God, actually, yes, that's awesome, do it. And so that's one of the cool things about being an agent, that you just worry about giving and connecting it to enough information and then following your instructions and can take decisions like this.
Yeah, that's interesting. So like, I guess, how do you test them? I mean, I would imagine, do you have some sort of like paper trading sort of with like past data, or you just use like live data? What's sort of like the methodology for that?
Yeah, so the interesting thing right now is that these AIs, we're using models that are like, you can use like Web3 that just came out, or like whatever is like the best open source. If you want to run it locally, and Shinkai also, you can do that with 2 clicks, or you can use OpenAI, Claude, and all of these models, they already have been trained with so much data and they understand transactions, so you don't need to give them extra data for them to understand, like, oh, if I do this, this is how it works. You just need to worry about giving, like, adding it skills/tools, so they're going to be able to, like, prompt itself. Oh, I want to know this information, so they can extract the information from the blockchain and make the decision. So it's like pretty cool because not only they work to write the code, they also work to like execute this agentic behavior without having to add extra data. Obviously, I still put some examples like, hey, for this case, this is a good arbitrage. For this case, maybe ignore it. But that's it. Just a bunch of examples, but I don't need to like do fine tuning or anything else for the models to be able to like do stuff like this.
Okay. Yeah, that's pretty powerful. It's kind of like embed sort of like a classification, whether it's like buy or sell or hold, just like based off the training data already.
For example, I told it like, hey, don't do a trade if the arbitrage is lower than this percentage. And also you need to take into consideration the transactions fees, because with the transactions fees, maybe the arbitrage is negative. So I just give it some examples, but that was it. And then I will tell the AI, execute this every like 2 minutes. And for every 2 minutes, I'm going to have the chat that I can go and see what I did, what information. So I have all the trail from like what the agent did. And for testing, sadly, most of the crypto protocols, they don't deploy in testnets. So you need to try it in mainnet, but I only do it with like a wallet with like $20 or $40. And I play with that. And once I feel it's working, I put more money and then more money until I'm like, okay, this like, maybe anxious, maybe this like, I leave it here.
Yeah, absolutely. It would be interesting. So with Ergo, there's the Rosen bridge. And so from an arbitrage perspective, whether it's ADA, so you can have ADA on Ergo now, and there's a bunch of different arbitrage opportunities. And so use that to bridge across and then do the arbitrage trade, because like Ergo will be more on the Cardano mainnet as opposed to on Ergo because the liquidity is not there, and vice versa. Same thing for Bitcoin and Ethereum.
Yep. Yeah, and those are some of the things that maybe when you want to create an AI agent, which is like, I wasn't expecting this, and I will have actually thought the opposite, is that when you have an AI agent, you don't want to add all the capabilities directly to that agent. You want to create multiple AI agents, and maybe this AI agent is an expert in using the Rosen bridge, and it can do movements. And then you have another AI agent that's an expert in doing like and get information from this exchange, and another one that's like the coordinator that calls all of the different ones. And so you're creating some like a team of agents. Also, this is possible in Shinkai, and this is what I did. But some people, maybe they're going to think, oh, why do I need like this structure of an AI agent calling it? Let's do everything in one AI agent. And surprisingly, it doesn't work that well. I feel when they have too many optionality of like, oh, this API with this tool, stuff like that, sometimes they get lost. So AI agents perform really well when they only have one responsibility, and then you just call another AI agent to that one to perform that task.
Yeah. I have a similar experience in my work where I'm creating tools for teachers, and if the tools get too broad, it falls apart and it's not consistent. So I really have to have an agent for each step, and then I can experiment and maybe consolidate. Some of them get consolidated together, but it's still like a series of steps, and then figuring out some way to like move the data from one bot to the next one so that they can have their final product. So same story.
I ended up with the same exact process. So it's super interesting that this is not theory, but when you start like using them a lot with the practice, you end up with the same path, because that seems to be like the thing that works the best.
Yeah, there's this mythical gradient descent algorithm that we're actually running as a result, as opposed to the machine learning algorithms running that, trying to optimize. It's like we're kind of running that in our own back end. It's kind of interesting, to get to that optimality of of everything. Because it's kind of like in some sense too, like with reinforcement learning, where like if they don't have enough data, they just overfit, right? And so that's just some sense that's what they're doing. If there's too much kind of happening, they kind of overfit to, and they forget the rest of those actions that, maybe should be acted upon, I guess.
Yeah, or maybe related to that as well is that when they get trained, maybe they don't get trained with access to like 200 tools or like 100 tools that do like very different stuff. So they have only the tools that are like maybe required to do that specific job that they're like adding in the training data, and maybe like a few extra tools. But when it has like too much stuff to do, like it gets lost. And also this happens when you're coding with Cursor and you use, for example, Claude. And it has happened to me so often that I ask, or even using Devin, which also uses Claude on the back, I ask for something and start doing it. But also it picks side quests and it starts changing other stuff as well. I'm like, dude, I didn't ask you to do that. Why are you doing that? And it's all part of like the training data that probably like they were like doing many changes, so it tends to like reproduce what it was in the training data, and maybe they don't have enough information with like tool usage because it's not something that people do. So you kind of find that data, you need to like produce it like synthetically. Maybe you need more imagination to have like these crazy cases. Who knows?
Right. Yeah. I guess that's why lately I've been seeing like with the MCP servers within Cursor, it's like, hey, don't go greater than 40 in terms of the tool calling, So yeah, absolutely.
And in Shinkai, everything that you create, including agents and tools, you can making them available as MCPs. So, for example, this crypto agent that's like doing trading, or even the tools to do swaps or to get quotes, I can access them from Cursor or the Cloud app, because through Shinkai, everything can be an MCP, which is like pretty cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. Hey, so I was... Oh, go ahead.
And also, I don't know if you guys have heard of this other protocol that's called A2A, Agent to Agent by Google. So MCP is by Anthropic, and it's like really good to like wrap up APIs and some specific like tools. But the agent to agent, it goes a little bit further. It's a little bit not as simple and clean as MCP, but allows for communication between agents, especially agents that are not from the same machine. So maybe I want to have an agent and you guys want to use it, or maybe I want to use your agents, and with this helps with like the communication. So maybe like the next thing that's going to happen now is that maybe people are going to start creating agents and they're going to make them available for other people, and we're going to be able to connect between agents. And I haven't seen that much, although this was what everyone has been pitching for like maybe 2 or 3 years, like these decentralized networks of agents calling agents, but I haven't seen any real example. And also I haven't seen like any like legit protocol that will help you with like how this happened. And finally, Google came out with something. Maybe it's going to take off similar to MCP. I don't get a feeling of that yet, but at least it's like something in that direction. So we are working on that, because that way maybe you can create agents and other people can connect to them, and even do microtransactions and pay for those agents usage that way.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I've definitely heard of the agent-to-agent idea, but I think until, I guess you can kind of put away an agent in a box and it proves its value, maybe in some sense, rather as much as possible that you can, and then maybe connect to it. I mean, I guess I haven't put too much thought into it, but it would be interesting from a decentralized perspective to like have like a token that is only spendable by this agent, I guess. And then that way, and so if I wanted to interact with it, I would have to, I guess, give it this token, and then in return, it gives me some service, maybe like buying or running this arbitrage for however long for me for a specific amount of time. And then other agents can like, I guess, interact with that and then they can run, I guess, in some sense, maybe through a smart contract or something would be interesting. Kind of like I'm kind of thinking like an N8N sort of like implementation, but on a smart contract that you could integrate with, and then give it tokens, and then it'll give you whatever that output back on some like recurring basis. And then you could have like nested of them kind of together, and sort of like some sort of token ecosystem around them, so that they stay online, they stay thriving. Because that would kind of be, I guess, their goal, I suppose. I'm not too sure though.
Yeah, that's super interesting, and I've been like trying to look more into that. But some of like the limitations is a lot of times with agents, you want to have certain capabilities, or even like checking a website, like, hey, you need to check this API or a website or an API. And that sort of breaks the mold when you want to do something with a smart contract, because a smart contract cannot do that.
Right.
It definitely can like call other smart contracts and stuff like that, but it loses. And or even when you want to do something between change and move tokens, you have the smart contract in this chain, and maybe it was moved to
Right.
layer 2. Like I don't have access to that anymore. So, and people have been like looking at different stuff beyond the smart contracts, also for like TE, trusted execute. TE stands for Trusted Environment Executable, I think is.
Okay.
So basically, TE allows the computer to run some computation, and you're sure that it didn't do something else. You're trusting it. It's a conclave that comes with like some processors, and there's like different versions, specializations, and more or less it works like pretty good. And you can generate like WASM code that could be run, but the problem is that, again, it cannot access a website because that's outside is trusted environment, which is like in the CPU. So I feel like the direction is correct, where we want to have like agents that they're going to be trustless, but in practice maybe the technology is not quite there yet.
Right.
Maybe we are going to need like a decentralized network that has like an MPC, multi-party computation that can create like some certificates that the information came from a specific website, and with that signature you can verify it in a smart contract. But right now that entire infrastructure is not there, so the agents that you can create like so limited that basically what I have seen so far is only like on-chain agents that connect to one specific protocol that maybe has like bolts that give you like different like interest rates, but you cannot do like more advanced stuff.
So I feel like
Go ahead,
I was gonna ask if this problem is maybe related to why you've also included in your Shinkai protocol the human in the loop component to kind of allow you to kind of step in and bridge the gap where, whereas some things are not quite connected, or maybe there's an issue around trust. It's like, I'm calling this bot that I'm found online, but I don't know if I could trust it. So
Yep.
I thought that was really interesting, and was kind of just going to ask you to explain a little bit more about the human in the loop components.
Yep. So AI is not perfect, and it's getting better much faster, but sometimes it can make errors. And just having like a heads up, hey, this is what I'm going to do. Do you want to confirm or not? If you don't confirm in like 30 seconds, I'm going to move on. And maybe you get a push notification to your phone. And all of this is like really possible in Shinkai today, which is like really cool. And so you can confirm, but also other parts for like human in the loop is that maybe as you like see more examples, maybe by default you say no, but you're looking at what it did, how it behaved previously. Maybe it didn't move automatically because it wasn't sure, but you're going to look at those examples and extend their instructions. So for example, going back to what I was saying about like maybe you are calling another agent, but you know if I should trust this agent. So maybe a way that's not going to be as good as the fully trustless, obviously, but it's going to have all the capabilities that you need, is that maybe you call an agent and it gives you enough information that you can also verify. So there is like this two-way of like task or like processing that maybe if it gives me an arbitrage opportunity, I can verify it before executing. So my agent is going to be responsible for that. Maybe it makes sense, maybe it doesn't, but my agent is not going to blindly do whatever this other agent does. And still it makes sense to call this other agent because like maybe it had to look at like hundreds of liquidity pairs to find this like arbitrage opportunity. And the only work that I need to do is like verify that actually the opportunity that it gave me, it makes sense. So it still makes sense, and maybe it's not like fully translated, but I'm verifying myself through my agent that this other information is real. So this is like the model that we are like pushing so far, because as I was mentioning, the other technology wasn't quite there yet, and it allows you to like keep doing stuff and maybe interacting with other agents.
That's super cool. That makes sense. And I think even like beyond just blockchain, like it's like, oh yeah, I need this human input at this step. Makes a lot of sense. That's really cool. That's something I wanna play with in your protocol for sure.
Yeah, and I'm using also Shinkai to learn Chinese, and it's like pretty cool because what I told this Chinese agent that whenever I ask for a question or like a specific word, to remember it. So then at the end of the session, it can do a quiz, and because it has memory, it also remembers like after the quiz which ones I did well, which ones I did not do that well. So the ones that I did well, it reorders them and they put it like very at the back, and the ones that I didn't do that well, it puts them like closer to the front. So when it does a next quiz, it's going to repeat the ones that I didn't know that well, and rather than the ones that are, it's sure that maybe
very
I'm
cool.
already like there.
Very cool. So I'm gonna ask maybe two questions in one, because me and Mark were talking about this, and like the big question, how can we get Ergo compatible with Shinkai, so we can use your tools with our blockchain.
Yeah, so that's the first part. Yeah.
Go ahead.
So the cool part about Shinkai for the tool generation is that when you're generating a tool, you can use an open source model that's running locally, or you can use a cloud solution. But you can pass the documentation as well. And if you pass links, also Shinkai goes to the page, it downloads the documentation for you, and it's going to generate the code. What we have been doing is that, and this one of the key features of Shinkai for the codegen, is that we realized that a lot of the documentation out there, especially for crypto, is not that good. And on top of that, it has some problems, and it's not made for AI. Something interesting about AI is that actually AI is better at inductive thinking rather than deductive thinking. What does this mean in practice is that if you give a lot of like documentation in like blah blah explanations, and you ask the AI, hey, write the code for this specific API, maybe does it well, maybe not. But if you give the AI a bunch of examples of how this API works, it nails it. It does so well. So what we have been doing is through a backend, rewriting a lot of documentation of different protocols. So what we do is like, we grab their documentation, we write examples, we run those examples to make sure that they actually run correctly, and we generate a bunch of examples. And that way, when Shinkai wants to use like a specific protocol, not only gets the documentation, but it gets like this clean documentation with a lot of examples that we know that they work, and it nails it. So we move from like the same AI model, let's say ChatGPT O3 medium, from like maybe creating a tool 2 out of 10, it moved to 9 out of 10. And it's the same AI model, and we are just giving it a better documentation.
Yeah.
So maybe you guys can help me with like which specific protocols. Frozen Bridge definitely is like going to be top of the list. We can like do this type of like processing, and then Shinkai Today it can already generate the tools, but maybe it's going to be like 40,
Yeah.
60, or 50-50. But after doing this, every time that you ask for something, it's going to nail it. And
That's
so,
really cool. So again, am relating to my work. The biggest thing to do to improve my outputs is to give really solid examples
yep,
of the work in education, and that does so much more than all the training documentation or instructions. It's just make it like this, and it does a really
exactly.
great job.
And sometimes you write like, don't do this, and it does it. But you give it 2 or 3 examples where you never do it, and it doesn't do it. It's like, oh my God, that was like much easier than yelling at the AI, like, don't do that.
So do you guys post your documents or anything like that you guys end up creating in the examples and stuff?
We have not yet. We have like other loops and stuff like that and we manage like the context window, but
Mhm.
it's accessible for free. We're thinking about like maybe monetizing that part. So you can have access to like maybe unlimited cogens using this specialized documentation, but everything in Shinkai, in the node, the app, everything is open source. And obviously you don't need to use this thing that we created. So you can still generate code, even locally, using like Web3 or whatever you prefer.
Okay. Well, yeah, that's pretty powerful. That'd be pretty cool to set up some different bots. So I guess in terms of the limitations, it's really, I guess, the protocol, right? What the protocol can and can't do, and then really, I guess, your imagination from there, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that's some people that have been using Shinkai have come with like, even, I don't know, they created like an agent that reorganizes pictures in your computer. So you have a folder with a bunch of pictures, and it checks picture by picture using an AI that has image processing, and then creates a folder for those pictures, and it moves the pictures, and like, oh, that's kind of cool. It's like nothing like, wow, like, but it's like, oh my God, AI can do that already. And it's one of those like, oh, interesting. And also other stuff that also people have been using already in Cardano to do trading. So I think like right now, one of the major issues is when you don't use Shinkai and you need to use some of the other solutions. For example, if you try to do the same thing that we can do in Shinkai, but with OpenAI, how this works, you are going to prompt OpenAI in their chat to do something. And maybe it can write the code, but it doesn't execute the code. The only code that can run right now is like, like small Python programs, and they're using a library called Py that runs in the browser, and it can run Python, but it cannot run like stuff that's like very complex. It's like very, very, very limited. So
Gotcha.
with ChatGPT, you cannot do this, and then what about Cursor? But the problem with Cursor is that you also need to handle dependencies. So it's not only writing the code, because maybe it wrote the code and it's using 3 specific libraries. And you're like, oh, I need to generate the Node.js project. And also I need to install these libraries. And then you end up doing all of this like more normal dev work. And also you need to be like running the thing and maybe communicating to the API. And the cool thing about Shinkai is that we do all of that automatically. So when the AI writes the code, Shinkai, part of its magic is that it has everything else related to the environment ready. So you press run and the code is going to run magically. And even if you are like a little bit scared of what the code could do, you can turn on Docker. So all the code and everything runs in a container. So it gives you extra protection of what it can do.
That's
Cool.
interesting. So how would it work, I guess, if I wanted to make like an Ergo, I guess, trading bot on a given like DEX, I don't like, would I have to put in like my mnemonic keys, or could I connect to a node and then run it from the node itself? Or would I actually have to, connect via like the plugin for a wallet, or how would that all work, would you think?
Yep. So most likely the easiest solution, but doesn't mean the best, it will be like just to give it a private key. And also that way you can have it like separated from like maybe other stuff. So And usually like when I'm playing, I start with like $20 or $40 or something like low to see how it behaves and to get more certainty. But definitely like if you prefer to control it through like the node, it could have the connection to the node and it could use like different SDKs, different APIs. So if actually like you don't want it to ever know about the private key, maybe the best way is to connect to the node and it's never going to see the private key. So that type of communication is today possible. Unless there's like a firewall or something, if your computer can have access to the node, it should be fine.
Right. Okay. And then would it be, I guess, so if I did put the private key in there, there's no, you guys don't track it or anything like that?
No, everything runs locally and like 100% locally. In fact, the only thing that we track is like if someone opened the app, but we don't track what questions they are. But also we ask you, do you want to send some analytics? These are the analytics that we send. You can say no, and we don't even know that you're using the app. And everything runs locally. So when you compute something, even if you use ChatGPT to generate the code or as an AI agent to select, hey, I need to run this specific tool, all the tools run locally. So 100% privacy and
cool.
We don't have any way. And if you don't believe us, all the code is open source and
take a look.
You can even compile it yourself.
Yeah, I love it, man. So in a few weeks, Ergo is going to have an Ergo Hack that is focused on AI and blockchain, and a project that I would like to do. It's kind of a reach for me, and so I'm hoping maybe I can use Shinkai to accomplish this.
Oh, cool.
I want to have an AI agent where people would maybe pay one erg to send a message, and it's like not a scavenger hunt, but it's a puzzle that is run by the agent, and they have to solve the puzzle, and then they would get the keys, all of the funds that get sent to the bot. Whoever wins first would win. And so does that seem like something feasible through Shinkai?
Yeah, and I'm going to make sure to add extra documentation. So Shinkai is going to be able to understand how to use Ergo. Well, it should already be able to use it, but sometimes, as we discussed, a lot of how well an AI performs in code generation, it depends on its training data, and who knows how much training data it has from Ergo. So the idea is to add extra documentation to maybe help it to not get lost if it didn't have enough. But I can make sure that all of that's good to go this week.
Oh, perfect.
Amazing. Yeah, maybe that's some homework for me and Marc to just kind of also collect some stuff that will be useful. As
yes, please.
The whole community, I'm sure, is going to want to check this out, and because as Marc said, the barrier to entry is just getting lower and lower, and more people can participate. And it seems like Shinkai really aligns with the values of Ergo in just being as decentralized as possible, open source, everything run locally. So it wouldn't surprise me if a lot of people started using this in the Ergo community.
Awesome. I'm excited, and I don't know, I like Ergo, so I will it will be fun to do and make sure that everything run correctly. And maybe I also can participate in the hackathon and create also a cool thing.
That would be amazing.
Yeah, that'd be sick. Yeah. Do you think it could generate smart contracts? Because that's something that people are always trying to do, is AI to generate smart contracts. What's your kind of thoughts on that? I'm sure it probably would be able to, or
yeah, it should be able to. Maybe I will not. I don't know, even when people generate smart contracts, we always go to an auditor. So even if an AI generates a smart contract, I feel we should still think or treat the AI as if it was a person. So it could have mistakes, although maybe for most of the cases it works. But I don't know, to start playing and create some MVPs, minimal viable products. I think it's like really freaking good.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. And maybe what about, I guess, in that same sort of thought, like an auditor, AI auditor, do you think it would be, so then you can have like an agent that is, generating the contracts based off like users, whatever they want to do. And then there's another one, well, then they'll take that smart contract and then audit it and then give it some score.
That's super interesting. Yeah, I guess that should be possible because the auditor, what is going to be looking, not all is going to look at the code, it's going to prompt the AI, hey, tell me errors. But what also could be doing, it could be like generating tests with
Right.
like edge cases and running actually the test and make sure that, or like even like tell the AI, like you are a white hacker. We need to hack this smart contract. What is the
Right,
best
yeah.
way to hack it? Write the code and run it, and actually try to hack the. Obviously, it's going to be in a test net or like for the AI, like
Right.
deploy locally, so it's not going to be like impacting anything real. But I think that's the direction, especially because sometimes the AI doesn't know what's going to happen, and even if it wasn't able to like hack it, maybe some of the information how to behave the smart contract could give it some hints of like, oh, actually see how it behaves. Like this didn't work, but it seems that maybe it's doing this thing that we can take advantage of.
Right. Yeah, I could kind of see like, I guess, a workflow of AI agents where it's like you have all these sort of barriers to go through, and then but then within that, the AI agents have to kind of work against each other. And it's kind of interesting, it's sort of like a white hat, black hat, sort of like make it a game, I guess, in some sense. But in any case, I know a lot of developers on Ergo are interested in having this sort of audit capability with smart contracts for sure.
Yep, and also just looking at examples and not even like good examples. You can even give it like bad examples, and maybe those ones are even more helpful. And it
Okay.
could like look at the patterns. Oh, this is an anti-pattern, and they can have this problem. And also it can search the web for you. So not only can like use its training data, but maybe it's going to search the web and find like problems that are in forums or in certain conversations online about like problems with smart contracts, and it's going to use that knowledge because we can inject that in the context window of this like auditor AI, and it's going to check, oh, this looks very similar to this, so this could be an exploit.
Right. Yeah, and then I guess back to kind of what we were talking, where it would be interesting to have sort of this marketplace of AI agents to where, somebody who's like maybe more versed in smart contracts now has like an incentive to make this robust AI auditor, AI agent, and then they could sell that to somebody for however many, $5
Yep.
per call or something like that. And okay, cool. Here's your output. Oh, it's got a 90%. Okay, maybe let's refine it, or hey, maybe that's good for me. And then somebody else has a generator, AI agent, and et cetera. So then now you have like these sort of like machines you're sort of creating through these AI agents who are like, its sole purpose is to create this specific output, whatever it is, it's interesting.
Exactly. Super aligned with that vision, and I think those type of things are like maybe like the best use cases for like AI agents that maybe are going to start like hitting the market in the very early, because it's like people that are open to these other AI agents, and it's like for a specific use case, right? That, no, check a flight for me to go to Japan. I have seen this case so much, but no one wants to use it. I don't know why everyone thinks that this is like the case that's going to make everyone want to use AI agents, but actually it feels like for more of like real problems like this, it's like a much better use case for like, oh, actually, I will be open to call an AI agent. And it's something that you cannot do with a bot, which is like just coding a bunch of rules for like being an auditor. You actually need to have an AI powering this to be able to be a decent auditor. So it's like really good idea.
Yeah, and then like from a DGEN perspective, you got all these tokens launching on like pump.fun like every hour or something. It would be interesting to have, an agent that's like, oh, hey, this is probably the one, and put a little bit of money in, and then it goes up. And again, purely DGEN though, right? It's like,
Yeah,
this one.
for this part, we have a few ideas, and I'm curious what you guys think about this. So, obviously, this like growing like crazy, and maybe it's going to stay. I don't know. It's difficult to tell, but let's assume that's going to stay. What is like? I feel like just having a normal bot with rules doesn't perform very well. If you're looking at like pump.fun, like, hey, the charts are going like this, maybe I'm going to be using some technical analysis. No, throw it to the garbage. You're going to lose money. What
Right.
some people are having success trading this, actually look at the behavior of the creator of the coin, the behavior of the other holders, and an AI agent could be really good at this because an AI
Right.
agent not only sees like the specific meme coin, but also automatically can grab all the behavior of this creator from previous time, and maybe what it sees like, I'm giving an example. This creator always wait until the coin is around like a million or like 900K market cap, and it sells like half. So
Totally.
you cannot code that behavior, but the AI, if you give like the behavior or like the information from that automatically gathers from the previous launch from this creator, it's going to see that pattern. It's going to be like, you know what, this coin right now is 400K. We're going to buy it now, and we're going to sell it at 800K. So we're going to be like selling before the other guy sells.
Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense because that's even how we would evaluate a project. Like it's not just the
Exactly.
price. It's like I want to know are the community active, or is GitHub active? All this stuff. That's smart. I like it.
So at the end, what the play here is that we're trying to have enough tools for the AI so you can have enough information to be able to see patterns like this rather than just give it the price, because the price is such a minimal thing in the realm of things. And as you mentioned, people are not just going to look at the price, they're going to look at, oh, who holds this? Is it like from the same account or related, or their unique wallet? So all of that information, I think it makes a difference when the AI agent is going to be like doing trading.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess with that sort of idea, it kind of comes into notion where, so you're saying like before we were talking about one agent, he needs to have a minimum set of tools, right? And then that kind of classifies them so they can sort of discretize, I guess, that output. But when you have like a whole like army, so to speak, of agents, you kind of get back to that with like a manager. So I guess what I'm saying is like, once you have like one agent sitting at the top, have you seen there been like diminishing returns on sort of just the output or the efficiency that you're looking for like the total set of agents that it controls? Like, so is it better at controlling, or do you see that it's better at controlling 10 agents with like 10 separate tasks, or controlling 100 different agents with 100 different tasks, or there is no difference?
Great question. And probably I have seen something similar to what happened to you with the tools. So the agents, they start behaving as a tool. So the AI coordinator is not saying I'm calling another agent, it's thinking I'm calling just another tool. So what we have seen is that when you have an agent that has like 40 or more tools, I start getting a little bit like, I don't know, not so good. The same happens when it has like the same amount
Okay.
of agents or agents plus tools. And
Okay.
also in terms of like levels, this agent calling this agent that calls this agent, I have seen that it takes a huge dive after around the third level or like fourth level.
Okay.
Like sometimes like maybe we are like trading too thin and we need to like group some stuff better.
I gotcha. And that kind of like reminds me of like the graphic image of like a neural network, right? Where on the last output layer, it's like that specific task that you're kind of going for. But then if you add this like sort of hidden layer of it, whether it be lengthwise or widthwise, it seems to have a better learning representation within that. So I don't know. And it kind of seems almost correlated in some aspects to where, right, if it's not deep enough, then it's not able to kind of grasp that nuance. But if it's too narrow, in any case, that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, I'm super interested. I love how you look at the stuff because you're looking at these similarities of like with other patterns, and there's like some stuff there.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, yeah, especially just because of like, because then like what I was saying before, it's like when we're learning how to like prompt these things, I think there's like this abstract layer to it, just like how in machine learning we're doing like gradient descent, but like we're pretty much doing gradient descent within prompting, and there's a lot of like so many similarities, and it's kind of weird that we've become so meta within AI that we're kind of the ML algorithm in some sense, and we have to run our own optimization or whatever the case. And so I think, and it's interesting where after Transformers came out, I felt like ML became like the sort of dead space, but now we're getting back into like more engineering aspects within AI that are very akin to machine learning. And it's kind of, at least for me, it's kind of exciting again, because now we can take all those same sort of concepts and now they're directly applicable to like LLMs, I guess.
Yeah, it's like a space that, I don't know, everyone's like, oh my God, we are still learning and open to so many different possibilities. So it's like, let's try this thing out. Maybe it's actually going to work, right? And that this is the only way that works the stuff, and we only move in this direction.
Right, totally. And and it would be such a fascinating idea to create a neural network that is an AI agent neural network, but like each point is an AI agent. That would be kind of a fascinating idea to see if that works. And like, I don't know, I guess how you would do the gradient descent and back propagate it, but in any case, that would be interesting.
Yeah,
we're getting in the
weeds. We're coming up on 1 hour, and so I guess I'll just ask Nico, is there anything else you would like us to talk about, or anything you want us to share whenever we put our video out?
I'm super curious about like the use cases, or like what you see for like maybe not even 1 year from now, but in the next 6 months, what are like the type of agents that you guys think like are going to be like out there and people are going to be using? And you guys have been like also looking at this for quite a while, so I'm curious about what you think. And from our side, just a link to Shinkai, and maybe also the link to the GitHub repos, so everyone can see that this is like true open source, and literally you can run Shinkai by just running these 2 projects, the one for the node and the one from the front end, and everything is there.
Amazing. Marc, you want to share use cases that you see coming?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say it's really just being able to do like anything off the imagination, or I mean, of course, right? But I guess with Ergo in particular, right? Like it would be really neat to say, hey, and this is something I'm working on like within the EF with Ergo, but stand up a mining pool, right? And then it's like, hey, this is what I'm doing. It's not really straightforward to do right now. There's a lot of different nuance you need to kind of do. And so standing up a mining pool, creating a dashboard, doing the SSLs, that whole thing is kind of pretty tough. And so it would be interesting to kind of do that. Trading bots, of course. There's a lot of stuff that is open source that you can get around certain fees like DEXs. And so you could like, hey, I want to trade on the DEX, but I don't want to pay for the DEX fees. If I download this repo, I don't have to utilize that. That would be kind of a hacky way to do that. And I don't know if, everybody maybe agree with that, but that'd be kind of, so taking a lot of like what's existing, and kind of repurposing it and kind of coming up with different ideas, and like NFTs and smart contracts are available now, but like it would be interesting like from a vibe coding perspective to be like, hey, I want to create this game that it's like a shooter game, does whatever, but I want to be able to have NFTs within this game. And then I want people to buy NFTs with Ergo, or in order to play a specific round, it's cost 10 ergs or whatever the case. And then within that prompt, stand up the entirety of the game, create this payment backend within that system, and then allow people to play that game based upon like these sort of payment mechanisms, and then do that with a set of prompts. And then I think from a volume perspective and then a user-based perspective, well, now you're creating this opportunity for people to one-shot video games and then use that network, especially Ergo, because it has low TX fees, and we're about to get sub-blocks where that's going to increase our transactions per minute. It creates this sort of like this opportunity to kind of obviously showcase the network, but also showcase people's specific user experience. And I think that user experience is really helpful for specific problems. And people will often say, hey, I actually have that same problem, and I just haven't like went to try to solve it yet. And I think with AI tied to that, and tied to more people using AI, that's going to showcase those sort of like these sort of hidden things that we didn't necessarily see, or didn't like, I maybe didn't think of, but somebody else did. And then I can kind of not take advantage, but, you know, I can now use that sort of solution in my own life, and that solves my problems, and I can, you know, pay for that kind of as needed.
Yeah.
Super interesting.
So for me, I'm seeing opportunity for agents in my work in education, in terms of, I guess, broadly project management. Something that I have talked about on our podcast before is I'm looking to really empower people to have smaller schools again. So where one or two individuals can run a school with, you know, 20 to 40 students, and automate away all of the centralizing functions of a school district. So you can have, you know, enrollment and, you know, HR and grading, you know, project management as you're moving the students through curriculum, designing things, creating opportunities for them to work. And so I've kind of been thinking about how to organize sets of agents in that context, so that, you know, because right now a school has to have, you know, hundreds of people operating it. But the challenge that we face is that there's so many kids and not very many teachers. You know, in California, there's 36 kids in a high school classroom and one teacher. We should get that down to 10, you know, 10 to 1.
It's crazy because there are like so many administrators. Sometimes maybe they even match, or there are like more than kids in the school. And we still have one teacher for all of these kids. Like, oh, we're putting too many people in the wrong spot, and we need more people in this other spot. It makes so much sense. And it's something that it has been like, I don't know, like kind of pissing me off a little bit for so long, because education could be so much better. But yes.
And the education could be fun for the kids if they are able to pursue it in a way that is personalized for them, right?
Yep.
So something I've been building is a way to help students develop projects, so that everyone can kind of do their own project and design, like, oh, I want to study, linear functions, but I'm interested in football or, you know, airplanes or whatever. And so the AI can work with the student to help them develop a really high level project, and the teacher will need an agent to kind of manage all of these projects. You know, if you have 10, 20 projects going on, that's a little difficult, but with the AI tools, it's coming. Yeah.
I love it. Like when I have the most fun in school is when actually I could do a project that it was something that would interest me and I would learn the most. And most of the time I was bored because it wasn't that. Maybe I like a crazy idea that maybe in the future, like kids out of like high school, they're going to come out with like a startup or a project that actually like people are using. Maybe it's not generating money, but something that people use because they can do all of this with AI. And it's not going to be like this path now that I haven't done anything. Then I go to school, to college to get more theory, and I still haven't done anything. And then you get to a job, and then with the AI, it's going to be like, guys, like you need to have some experience to do anything. So you need to get experience somewhere, and why not the earliest as possible, which would be like in school. Like
I have a meeting with my students tomorrow. I have 4 students. They finished their class a little early, and so I told them, like, hey, I'm going to show you how to use Lovable, Lovable.dev, and
it's really cool.
We're gonna start a business or something. Like, let's go.
Oh, that's awesome.
Awesome.
Yeah,
You're a great teacher.
Thank you.
It's kind of like that idea you were saying, where it's like, we can take like the structure of the documents, right? But like really, as humans, even AI, we need those examples, we need those use cases, and then those use cases tied to our like what we're interested in, and that's really where the learning can kind of rocket ship. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Hey, fellas, I have emails piling up. People need my attention, so I got to go. Hey, Nico,
was
thank
super
you
fun.
so much. This was a really good conversation, and I think something good's going to come out of it. So thank you. Really.
Sure.
Yeah, thanks, Nico.
Okay, let's create some cool stuff in Ergo. Bye, guys.